New York Daily News. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'm in the studio with Stefan James.
What's up, y'all? How you doing?
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
You may recognize him from Selma and Race, box office hits. He's just now wrapping up his recent project, which is on Fox. It is called
Shots Fired.
Now tell me a little bit about Shots Fired.
Shots Fired. Shots Fired. Well, it starts when...
Sounds like a chant.
It does, doesn't it? It starts when a black police officer shoots and kills an unarmed white teenager.
Okay.
And in a small town in North Carolina, and the governor of the town summons a prosecutor and an investigator to prosecute the case. So I played a young prosecutor from the Department of Justice named Preston Terry.
Ivy League educated.
Exactly, very much so, from Yale. And I work with Sanaa, Lathan, who plays Asher Keno, my investigator, and together we work not only on solving this case, but we also work on solving another case, the case of a murdered black boy.
Yeah.
And we don't know who murdered him, but we realize in order to solve the first case, we got to solve the second case.
Right.
So we end up investigating these two cases, and really it's just a whirlwind of emotions and mystery, and it's thrilling. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and it seems to be coming like just at the right time. I mean, in the hindsight of all of the police brutality that we've seen in the news.
Yeah.
So you're tapping into very recent events.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about the show, because I've seen a few episodes of it, is that it's a very like humanizing show, right? You're sort of bridging the gaps between two races that often are divided on this issue.
Absolutely. It's really an incredible thing, and that's really a credit to Gina and Reggie, our creators.
Yeah.
They really have a way about making these characters very, very human. There's no hero in this piece. Everyone is flawed. Every character is flawed.
Yeah.
And we all go through, big journeys and transitions. You'll realize that my character, Preston Terry, is much different in hour 10 than, what we see in hour 1 of the show. So, they really do a great job of bringing a level of humanity to these characters, whether it be, the police officers played by Mack and Stephen Moyer.
Yeah, it's a very star-studded cast.
Yeah,
I was shocked, as the show kept going.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, and he's in it too.
We're very blessed to have a great cast. Yeah. A lot of film actors who, came together to make this 10-hour film. So I'm just fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah, can you talk to me a little bit about your preparation process for this? Like, was this? I mean, I think that you have a history of working in maybe like historical or like racially charged films. So in that aspect, this isn't anything new to you. But I do think that covering modern day police brutality is something new. So was there anything in particular that you felt like you brought to this role to make sure that you really like knocked it out of the park, pun intended?
Well, you know what? Preston Terry, my character, when I first read it, honestly, I hadn't seen anybody like Preston Terry on television or in film for that matter.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, then you have to look to real life. And for me, one of the closest, representations of that was Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the United States. And, we were able to connect a few times before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, before filming this. And
that's special. Wow.
Oh, very, very special. He was very, very insightful in telling me about his journey, coming up and rising to the levels of success, which he has. Just how aware of his blackness he was, and just all of his struggles and trials and tribulations, and then the joyous occasions as well.
Yeah. But
he always had a chip on his shoulder, and that's something I feel like I brought to Preston. He always has this chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And
from the jump, from the minute it starts rolling.
The jump, he has something to prove, and
yeah.
He's also an athlete, so that plays a little bit into his competitive nature and wanting to win, and but he realizes not everything's as easy as it seems, coming into it.
Yeah, it's not cookie cutter, that's for sure. I want to talk a little bit about, the show itself is really heavy, overall. There are funny moments, obviously, but then for the most part, it's just super deep, and I found myself in very contemplative thought. and sometimes like angry at times,
Yeah.
sad at others, lots of emotions that come up watching it. How did you guys keep the spirit light while you were filming it? And also, it's not like it's like a strictly black cast. Like, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
So, are you guys having conversations about like what your
I
what your
think
role
so.
playing?
I mean, you know what was so interesting is when we were filming this. I mean, you talk about how timely it is, but honestly, this idea was curated years ago. You know, maybe 5 years ago, when after watching the George Zimmerman trial, Reggie with his son. You know, his son was very, very upset with the verdict.
Yeah.
And he ended up writing a poem.
The son.
Reggie's son, writing a poem in the voice of Trayvon Martin. And that really inspired Gina and Reggie to, you know, to write this show and to bring it to Fox. So, you know, for us, the fact that, you know, it's so timely isn't something that, you know, we really planned, and it's obviously an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that 5 years later it's still timely.
Exactly.
Actually.
But, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, shooting it in the summer, you had all these, I mean, records amounts of you know, police killing, you know, people in the African American community.
Yeah.
So, you know, that for us was something we were living in. And we didn't have to create it. We didn't have to fathom it.
Right.
It was a very, very real thing. It was something we were living.
It.
Yeah.
For sure. Are you guys discussing what's occurring, like while you're, you know, working through these scenes, or just sort of like
I mean,
off the script?
I think so. You know, we definitely discuss what's happening in real life. A lot of the things were eerily, you know, already in the script. It was so weird. You know, things that, you know, we had written down and we saw come to fruition in real life. Obviously, some very emotional days. You know, Mack had a lot of days where, you know, he didn't want to put on his uniform because it was a tough thing for him to do. You know, there was a lot of days that I personally, as a prosecutor, sitting across from Mack, you know, I had to wrestle with that too. You know what I mean? And how do I prosecute this man in a climate like this? You know, knowing exactly what, you know, what's taking place. So there were those types of conversations, and you know, at the end of the day, nothing was forced. These are all real things that are happening around us. So,
For sure.
you know, the conversation has to be had.
Yeah, it's literally art imitating life here.
Yeah.
You just said something that I was going to sort of piggyback off of. But I want to talk about, I guess, like the process of maybe like grooming yourself for this role, if you will.
2 hours of hair and makeup in the morning.
No, not actual grooming. Like mental grooming. I mean, aside from your conversations with Eric Holder, did you find that when you were sort of stepping into the role of Preston, did you formulate his backstory? I mean, we figured that out along the course of the show as well, but
the great thing about this role, about this show, really, is all the characters got backstories.
Yeah.
We all got written,
this is
you know,
who he is.
Statements in our words. You know.
Oh, nice.
You know, Preston talking, you know, saying where he came from, and, you know, talking about, you know, his whole relationship with his brother, and this is something you all will find out once you start watching the show on March 22nd.
Yeah.
But
I have so many questions about that, but I know that I can't ask them, and it's killing me. It's killing me.
You know, his relationship with his brother. You know what that all means. His brother's this big superstar football player.
Yeah.
And you know, Preston sort of feels like his purpose in life is greater. You know, it's more than running a football up and down the field or hitting a ball out the park. You know, he really feels like he can change the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that coming into it. You know, there's a lot of things that I feel like were already put on the paper in front of me, honestly. And again, it's another credit to Gina and Reggie in creating the backstories for these characters.
Were there moments where you felt like, I guess the best way of me asking this is like, did you ever feel maybe like naked on set, if you will, in that watching the show and sort of like dissecting Black life through the lens of that show, like seeing how there's so many topics that are covered, right? There's the whole crabs in a bucket theory that I think is like super prevalent in the Black community in particular. Mm-hmm. There's this idea of Black men being reared in a culture where you're encouraged to go the NFL route, the NBA route, and then you leave the hood, if that's where you're from, and leave and or return, and like all of a sudden like you're this educated man and like you're sort of chastised for that.
Yeah.
So, and the show addresses all of this, but Were there moments where you were playing these roles and you felt like supremely uncomfortable, like exposing this, if you will?
You know what? It's a very real thing. I mean, at the end of the day, as an artist, my number one job is to tell the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is my number one job in every role. Just be as honest as I possibly can. And so, you know, it helps obviously when it's in the writing, but of course you have, you know, a lot of tough moments because you know that it's real life.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something you're just making up. You know that these are things that people go through on a daily basis, and we do a great job of exploring that, not only in, you know, the overall plot, but as individuals for our characters. You know, every character has that level of humanity where you get to see the real life. You get to see some things you don't necessarily see all the time. You know, Sanaa, Lathan's character is incredible.
Yeah. Very layered.
Yeah, you know, has so many different layers to her, and it's just not something people expect to see. You know, for me, I hadn't seen Preston on TV or in the movie, so, you know, again, it's something people are not going to expect to see.
Yeah.
It's something new. It's something fresh. People are going to see, hopefully be able to relate to, you know, these characters because they're all flawed.
Yeah, what are you hoping that the piece, like it's a movie, what are you hoping that the show...
It's really a long movie. It's a 10-hour
Very
film.
long. It's great, though. What are you hoping that people take from this? Like, what lessons are you hoping that they learn from it? And who is the show for, if for anyone in particular?
The show's for everyone. I mean, the great thing about this show is it really gives the audience a vantage point from so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
You really get the story from a bunch of different seats in the house. Do you know what I mean? So it forces you to see someone else's perspective. You know, whether you want to appreciate it or not, accept it or not.
Yeah.
You see it. It's out there in the open. We don't favor one side or the other. These things aren't black and white. There's a huge gray area to it, and you know, that's highlighted in the show. For me, I guess I just hope that this helps people initiate conversation. You know, I think we offer, you know, something that's cathartic and maybe healing for people. You know, in a time where that's what this country needs, quite frankly. You know, that healing.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, Band-Aid.
Band-Aid and prayer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, I just hope people talk about it and have conscious conversations and obviously enjoy it because it's entertaining. It's not only important and relevant, but it's entertaining. Personally, just reading the scripts, I was so excited reading the scripts every week because we'd read the scripts and be like, oh my gosh, like this is happening next.
Yeah.
And like piecing together different clues and knowing that, you know, we have to shoot this in 2 days, but it's incredible.
Do you find that you're like playing detective as you're reading through the script? Like,
oh, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, Gina and Reggie, they have this like weird secretive thing where they don't like telling us anything.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, it's just like, it's something that we had to just, we read, and week by week we were always surprised.
Yeah, that's cool. Can you walk me through that first table reading? How did that go?
It was incredible. You already knew who was in the cast, and obviously incredible actors. You know, Will Patton, Richard Dreyfuss, Helen Hunt.
Yeah.
Extremely talented individuals. People who I, you know, grew up watching. But that first script read through and bringing all those characters to life.
Yeah.
It was really a special thing. Really a special thing to see it all play out. And I mean, we shot this like a year ago, and it was actually supposed to come out earlier. I think it was supposed to come out in like September, but I'm so happy that that we waited on it and, you know, gave it time to really become its own thing. And now I just feel like it's its own, you know, it's its own beast. So I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. Do you feel like the directors gave you sort of creative reign over who Preston becomes, or were they very like, this is who he is? I know you said that they gave you some backstory.
There was a backstory, and, you know, we sort of had an outline of where my character would go.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like the journey. There's nothing like the process, and nothing's ever going to be exactly what we said it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much planning.
That's what makes it art, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how much planning goes into it. It's always going to be different. So you have to go through that journey to get there. And, you know, for me, it was just really a journey. Like I said, I was learning new things about Preston, just going through the motions, going through the scripts and going through the scenes. And, you know, so for the most part, you know, I was able to do what I wanted to do, but there was a strong guidance from Reggie and Gina.
Well, when you say what you wanted to do, what was that? What does that look like?
I just wanted to be honest and open, and I wanted to be able to find myself in Preston, and they weren't so sticklerish about me playing him in a certain type of a way.
Yeah.
I was able to really just make him into who I wanted him to be. Which is something interesting because I haven't gotten the opportunity to do that in a little while. Just, when you play John Lewis, you have to be John Lewis.
You have to be John Lewis,
When you play Jesse Owens, you got to be Jesse
Not
Owens.
a lot of wiggle room there.
But now I'm playing Preston Terry,
Yeah.
and I can build him from the ground up and,
For sure.
make him into who I want him to be.
Did you pull aspects of yourself and put them into Preston? And if yes, what aspects were they?
I think so. I grew up playing sports, so, just tapping back into that. I grew up playing basketball, huge fan.
Tapping into the inner jock.
Exactly. Yeah. Tapping back into that, like that competitive nature, that competitive attitude that Preston has. That was easy. That was probably the first thing that I was like, that resonated with me. But then, just him just being so smart. I love the fact that he's so smart.
Yeah.
And so confident.
He's so sure of himself.
So sure
like,
of himself.
I found, I took such pleasure in watching that. He's very, unwavering.
Yeah.
And, just generally unbothered in, the most, sophisticated and, not uncocky way.
Unbothered.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. He says everything in absolutes as well, which I also appreciate.
Exactly.
Even when he's questioning it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you'll see the change in Preston, and that was a very conscious thing as he comes into this world a certain way, extremely optimistic.
Yeah.
He definitely thinks he could change this community, probably the country. He wants to be Barack Obama one day.
Yes, he's looking for Michelle,
So
actually.
He's looking for his Michelle. So, but we see, he gets jaded and he realizes a lot of things about this world, about the community, about the police department, that changes him probably forever. And he's a much different man in that 10th hour than you see in the first.
Yeah. Well, even I feel like, and I'm not going to give anything away, but I do feel like even maybe halfway through that first episode, you can see that shift in him, right?
Yeah.
There's so many moments where, I'm not giving anything away. He goes from where, I am. He goes from there's a moment though where he goes from constantly being suited and booted, if you will, to all of a sudden you finally see him in sweats.
Yeah.
And there's a complete shift there, even in terms of the narrative. You can really see that he's okay, there's something that I need to do here to relate.
Yeah.
And I feel within myself that he already relates to this, but I think he's tried to distance himself so far from it that not forgotten it, but you can just tell with the dynamic with his brother, and I'm gonna leave it at that. but yeah, I'm excited about who I think that he becomes, and even if he doesn't come, who I think he will become. I'm just excited about the show in general.
You.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
No, it's dope. I'm so excited. I'm happy that this story is being told.
Likewise.
And not just from the perspective of a person of color, but also it tackles a lot of things. You've got a female football player, amazing. It tackles the role of women in society.
Yeah.
It tackles this sort of made up complexes of masculinity within society, and specifically within Black culture. And there's a lot of really just I don't want to say human, but I've already said that, but heartfelt moments where children are realizing that maybe my parents aren't these good people that I thought they were.
Right.
And I think that's probably is one of my favorite moments,
Yeah,
which you guys will see. But yeah, there's just lots of really great moments, and I'm excited about it. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like working with Sanaa? I mean, she's legendary.
Yes,
Sanaa's
she's iconic.
Yeah.
Definitely a legend. For me, I got to meet Sanaa a few times just before, actually filming. We did a few chemistry reads and stuff like that. But she's really incredible. Honestly, for somebody who's done so much work and has had so much success.
Yeah.
She walks around like a butterfly. She's so
That's
warm
nice.
and kind to people, and she she's really she's a hippie. She's a lot of fun to be around.
Okay.
She's always happy, and it makes it easy because we spend a lot of time together. I mean, 6 months in North Carolina, you know, she's 1, I'm 2. We're in front of each other every day, 16 hours a day. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was really a pleasure to work with her. She's a phenomenal artist. I've never worked with anyone like her. She brings so much heart, so much passion, and you know, really, it was fun. She's very easy to work with.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about you.
Yeah,
you are from Toronto.
I am.
Are you based in Toronto now, or are you like stateside in LA?
I still call Toronto home.
Okay.
But you know, I got a spot in LA too. I could only really do LA in doses, to be honest. You know, I like it like two or 3 months, and then I start to get a little itchy. Like, gotta get back to the East. But
wait, by the East, you mean like East, like New York?
Like Toronto.
Okay.
Like,
I was gonna
Toronto,
say, I'm like, you have an itch to get back to New York versus LA. LA is so much more chill.
I personally like the vibe in New York better than I like the vibe in LA.
So many people say that.
I guess because, you know, it kind of reminds me of Toronto. Toronto's a smaller, cleaner version.
Much cleaner.
Much cleaner.
You don't like the trash on the ground outside? It gives New York character.
I guess so. You guys do have that. I will say like, that. Character.
Everyone needs lots of pigeons around.
Yeah, I mean, why not? But, you know, I really call Toronto home. I think Toronto's a special place, and I've been a lot of places. I've, you know, been blessed to be able to travel a lot of places, but Toronto really is still such a special place.
It's number 1.
Absolutely.
Can you talk to me about your process of coming into fame? I feel like you popped up on the scene and sort of just skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's a lot of backstory there in terms of like it wasn't like an overnight success because no one is ever that.
Right.
But talk to me about getting here. What was that process like?
Well, firstly, I don't feel famous, to be honest. I feel very fortunate. I feel very blessed. I started in theater in high school, and
so you were a theater kid. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. Theater in high school, and you know, I just kind of honestly, I was always pretty shy and like reserved.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know how people would take to, you know, me performing and doing things like that. But it started, you know, really like, okay, drama class, let's do a couple things.
Yeah.
And then, you know, now let's get on stage in front of the whole school and do a couple things.
Testing the water.
You know, started doing a lot of plays and stuff like that. And then I was just like, let me feel out film and television and see what that brings in. Honestly,
I love that slow progression, guys. I'm going to test something out on stage, and you know what? Let's just go ahead and take it like worldwide. Like let's just be in Selma.
I didn't know it was gonna turn into all that.
Like what? I just woke up one day and decided to be a movie star. It's cool.
No, I didn't know it was gonna.
The usual, you know, super cash.
I didn't know it was gonna turn into all that, but again, I really have been very, very fortunate. I realized that not a lot of people get to do some of the things I've done in a 20-year career, and I've been doing this for 8 years.
Yeah.
So I really feel lucky and special to be a part of great projects and work with great people. I've learned a lot from the people I've worked with.
Yeah. I mean, you've worked with some great people, so.
Some really.
Yeah, you haven't really had the option but to learn. You're a sponge right now.
And you just soak it all in, and you just appreciative of it, and you just hope it continues. So I mean, I'm not chasing fame either. I want to be a part of great projects, and you know, just tell my stories.
Do you have? Well, do you write actually? Because I find that lots of actors are also writers.
Yeah. I definitely have explored writing. I want to direct one day. I actually want to make a film. I've been really obsessed with Basquiat as of late.
Okay.
And I want to, you know.
I love Basquiat too. Actually, not a real painting, but a few of his like works in my room.
Yeah. I've been obsessed with him for a long time. I actually have like a piece of his tattooed on me.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, I mean, they made a film about him in the 90s. Jeffrey Wright played him.
I have that.
Yeah.
On VHS. That is how old that film is.
VHS.
I have it on VHS where you like press rewind.
I had to dig it up on Amazon. But no, it's really, he gives a great performance. But you know, I just feel like that film, or you know, that story would resonate even more today. I think his work is even more popular today than it was back then. And you know, I just think he's a fascinating individual. I'm in love with his artwork. I'm in love with him, and you know, I hope one day I get to curate the film.
Would you want to play him in the film, or just?
That's exactly what I want to do.
No way.
That's
awesome.
That's exactly what I meant.
That's dope. Well, I wasn't sure if you meant like I want to like develop the story behind this film about Basquiat, or like
everything. I mean, I think it'll take obviously a lot of pieces, but I want to be involved in the writing and you know, obviously the production, and then play him.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that sort of touched on my next question, which I always like to ask, like, what is the dream? Is that the dream? Or, like, if you have an ultimate, like,
I don't know that I have an
look
ultimate. I want to play like Spider-Man one day. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I just have so many, like, I want to do a bunch of things. I take pride in, like, being a chameleon. To me, it's fun when people are, you know, they don't, you know, some people will look at me and they're like, like, I know him, he's familiar.
I've seen him somewhere.
To me, that's cool. Like, you know, I like that you don't know where exactly you know me from. You know, I had a really funny haircut when I
Won't
did
be
race.
like that for long. I mean, the show airs on Wednesday, guys, so.
Yeah. So.
Not going to be that long while you have that, like, sense of privacy.
Yeah, I guess not. But I just think there's something cool about, you know, knowing people for the many different things that they've done. Like, I see a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm like, I don't really know you, but I know all your work, and I think it's phenomenal. You know what I mean? So, I kind of like that. I want to do it all.
Do you have a motto that you live by?
A motto that I live by? Not really. I just always want to be a better person than I was the day before, and that's in my work and in my personal life.
I was going to say, I don't really have a motto. I just wake up in the morning and decide that I'm going to be a movie star. The usual.
That was my motto before.
You're in high school.
I changed it a couple months ago.
Got it. That's hilarious. What do you think has been the most thrilling part of working on Shots Fired?
The most thrilling part of working on Shots Fired.
And have there been lessons that you've learned?
For me, the most thrilling part of working on Shots Fired was the opportunity to speak to my generation in a way I feel like I've never been able to before.
Yeah.
And that's with Selma, that's with Race. I just feel like this speaks to them so directly.
Yeah.
And I haven't done a whole lot of television, so that was very exciting for me.
Yeah.
I don't personally want to do television, but this was an event series, you know, sort of a 10-hour film is what it was.
Keep
so that's
saying
why,
that.
No, that's exactly
Can you expand on that? Like, what brought you to that conclusion that, like, this is how you're defining it?
It started as
okay.
a film.
I didn't know that.
You know, it started as a film called Indictment, and, you know, it grew into this 10-hour film where every hour feels like it stands by itself.
Yeah.
You know, we had a screening a few months ago here in New York, and you know, some people came up to me afterwards and like, man, the movie was so good. Can't wait to tell my friends about it. I'm like, there's 9 more.
Right. There's actually lots of shows that follow this.
We have 9 more of those coming up. So, you know,
that's
for me,
dope though.
What,
that people are that excited about it.
That's exactly what it feels like to me. And I'm a film actor. That's why I feel most comfortable. That's where I started. So, you know, it's very cool to be in a position where you're now on a TV show and people don't have to go to the movies and pay for a ticket to see a movie. It's going to come to their living room every Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
You're moving in with the viewer.
Exactly. I'm coming to your living room. Be prepared.
That could come off as a little creepy.
Not in that way. I mean, only on Wednesdays.
Climbing through your windows.
Only on Wednesdays.
That's hilarious. We've got to wrap it up. Okay, I have to ask you just 2 quick questions about, I guess we could compare, guess we would end up comparing Toronto to New York. So do you guys eat, is it poutine?
Poutine?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Toronto.
Absolutely, 150%. Poutine is a staple.
Okay, so poutine versus New York pizza. Which do you go with?
I'm gonna have to side with the Canadians on this and go for the poutine.
Nothing is better than New York pizza, guys. Don't let them fool you.
We'll have to talk about
what's on your poutine? I gotta know.
A bunch of cheese.
Okay.
A bunch of gravy.
Well, what kind of cheese though? Is it like the cheese curds?
Cheese curds.
Okay. Yeah. I had a roommate that was Canadian, and she would honestly make some bomb poutine.
I mean, hey.
It could compete with New York pizza, but like.
We'll talk about it.
$1 New York
pizza.
All right.
We'll talk about it.
It's not really negotiable. Second question. Tell me about your quintessential New York day.
My quintessential New York day.
Or New York moment, either one. I kind of like the moment question a little bit more.
Moment. It was probably doing the summer premiere out here, actually.
Okay.
We did the summer premiere here like 3 years ago now at the Ziegfeld.
Okay.
And there was literally nothing like that. Like, I've never been a part of a premiere like that. The energy here was ridiculous. There were so many incredible, talented people that came in and came to watch our film, and that to me is really a moment I think I'll always remember here.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Okay, well, make sure that you guys tune in and watch Shots Fired on Fox. It airs Wednesday, March 22nd at 8 p.m.
8 o'clock, right before Empire.
Right before Empire. Thanks for tuning in, guys.